So guys, we officially have day number 2 of our 2020 March Madness tournament in the books, and it certainly was another crazy day of games yesterday. We saw 7 games go on, and we had actually 2 overtime games. We saw Seton Hall and Hofstra go head-to-head, and the 14th seeded Hofstra Pride ended up getting an overtime win over Seton Hall. That was probably the upset of the day. Pretty much the upset of the tournament so far, for that matter. I mean, that was a crazy game, no doubt about it. And we also saw, or we almost saw, Yale get the win over Penn State later on in the afternoon. That never happened. Penn State ended up getting the win in overtime as well. But yeah, Yale was leading for like 3 quarters. It looked like they were going to pull the upset there at one point, but certainly Penn State stormed back and they were able to get the win there. We also saw a couple of blowout wins. We saw Butler get a blowout win over North Texas. Florida State blew out 15th seeded Richmond, and we also saw Wisconsin, 5th seed. They also beat up Stephen Austin, the 12th seed. That was a little bit of a surprise. I know a lot of people were actually picking SFA to get the win over Wisconsin there. That didn't really happen, but nonetheless, we also saw Illinois get a close win over Cincinnati. Certainly, that was an interesting game. And to finish off the day, we had San Diego State and Eastern Washington, and SDSU came in with a win, but it was certainly close. It looked like we were about to have a 15 seed moving on to the second round for a second there, no doubt about it. Nonetheless, in this video, we're going to be going over your updated bracket as well as an updated schedule heading into March 23rd. And once again, we're going to be doing this every night throughout the tournament until we get past the Elite 8. And we'll be going over an updated bracket as well as an updated schedule for the next day, because our schedules are a little bit subject to change right now, especially with everything that's been going on. It's just kind of crazy at the moment, no doubt on that. Nonetheless, let's go ahead and get started with our South Division. We officially have the first part of our South Division filled in for the second round. We had Baylor a couple days ago get the win. We also saw USC get the win a couple days ago against Marquette. So those two teams will be playing each other. Should be a good matchup there. And we also saw Penn State get the win once again over Yale earlier this afternoon. And we also saw Butler get the win this morning against North Texas. So those two teams will go head-to-head once again. Another really good matchup in Penn State and Butler. It'll be interesting to see who comes out on top for that. In the second part of our South Division, we got Virginia and Wichita State. Once again, Virginia won that one, and so they're going to be in round number 2. And we also have Michigan State and UC Irvine. That game will be, I believe, in a couple of days. That will be on March 24th, so stay tuned for that. Winner of that game will play Virginia in the next round, defending champions pretty much. And then we also have Providence and Florida. That should be an interesting game too. And they will play, the winner of that game will play the Florida State Seminoles, which was a team that looked really good against Richmond. Moving on to our East Division, we don't have a whole lot filled in on the East Division. We've got Dayton and Boston University. That game, I believe, will be in the evening of March 24th, so you still got to wait a day for that. But yeah, Oklahoma got a win yesterday, technically, and they won over UCLA in overtime. That was a good game if you ever watched it. And then Auburn and Akron will go head-to-head in a couple of days as well. And we also get to see Louisville and Vermont go head-to-head tomorrow. So, yeah, certainly a very filled-in slate for the East Division, as you can see in the second part as well. We got West Virginia and Rutgers will go head-to-head tomorrow. Maryland and Bradley will be in a couple days, same as Colorado and Indiana, and also Villanova and Belmont. So we have got to wait a little bit of a while to see what will happen in the East Division. Nonetheless, moving on to our Midwest Division now, we got Kansas and Prairie View A&M. They will go head-to-head in a couple days. Meanwhile, Arizona got the win over LSU a couple days ago, so that's nothing new there. We also have Ohio State and East Tennessee State. That game will go on, I believe, on our final day of games on March 25th. Now, once again, we'll be going over our updated schedule for the tournament in a second. We also got Kentucky and Liberty, and that game, I believe, will be tomorrow, if I'm correct. Yes, that will be tomorrow afternoon. And nonetheless, let's go on to our second part of the Midwest Division. We saw Illinois once again get the win over Cincinnati. That was yesterday. And Duke and Little Rock should be an interesting game there. That is going to be on tomorrow as our first game. Then Michigan and Utah State, and then Creighton and North Dakota State will go head-to-head to determine who will go on to the second round as well. And those games will be both on March 24th, I believe. Now moving on to our West Division, first part of it, you got Gonzaga and Robert Morris. Should be Possibly an interesting matchup there. I mean, of course, Gonzaga being a 1 seed should get the win. You also got Houston and Arizona State, 8 versus 9 seed. Should be a good matchup there. That one will be on March 25th. And then we got Wisconsin, who got the win over SFA today. So we will be seeing them in the second round, and they're going to play the winner of Oregon and New Mexico State, which that game right now is actually scheduled to be our final game of the first round. Moving on to the second part of the West Division, we got BYU and Texas Tech. That game will be, I believe, in a couple of days. And once again, Hofstra got that thrilling win over Seton Hall yesterday in overtime. Certainly was a really good game there, and it'll be interesting to see how far they can go. I wonder if they'll be able to take down either BYU or Texas Tech. That'd be crazy if they did. Nonetheless, we also see Xavier. They got the win over Iowa. That was our first game of the entire tournament. And then we saw San Diego State get a close win over Eastern Washington as our final game of today. Now let's move on to our schedule for March 23rd, and this is what you can kind of expect. Once again, we lowered down the amount of games that we're going to be putting out every day, at least for the first round. We're actually planning on doing 11 games a day in 1 hour time slots, and that just was not going to work. So we decided to do it in 1.5 hour time slots instead. That's how we're going to be doing it for the rest of the first round. And here's what you can look at for tomorrow. Our games will be starting at 12:30 p.m. Eastern, 11:30 a.m. Central, with 3 Duke and 14 Little Rock. We also have at 2 p.m. 7 Michigan and 10 Utah State. Good matchup there. We also see at 3:30 number 4 Louisville and 13 Vermont. At 5 we got number 4 Kentucky and 13 Liberty. So 2 4 versus 13 seed games in a row. And then getting into the evening, you got West Virginia and Rutgers, 6 versus 11 seed at 6:30. At 8, we got Creighton at number 2 seed against number 15 North Dakota State. And then at 9:30, we got 5th seeded Auburn against 12 Akron to finish off the day. So once again, we got 7 games tomorrow, and we'll be moving on after that to the rest of the round of 64, which we will be doing 3 more days of the first round, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Now we will be doing 5 games on Tuesday and then 6 games on Wednesday, getting over with the first round. Once again, we will not be putting in 11 games a day. It just doesn't really work that way. But nonetheless, we also extended the second round. They'll be going from Thursday to Saturday this week, March 26th through the 28th. Then moving on to the Sweet 16, that will be next week, Sunday to Monday. Elite 8 will be Tuesday and Wednesday. Then we get a 2-day break before the Final Four and the championship. So certainly lots of games coming out over the next few days. So be sure to stay tuned for that. Subscribe if you'd like to. And of course, be sure to stay tuned for those games. And yep, that about wraps up this video. I'll see you guys all tomorrow. Once again, we got 7 games coming up, which will be starting with 3rd seeded Duke and 14 Little Rock. So that should be an interesting game there. And also another thing, you guys have been asking me a little bit about the platforms that I've been using. I've been using both NCAA Basketball 10 and NBA 2K, as you know. And just so you know as well about that, the reason why, or actually part of the reason why we choose, or how we choose what game what platform these games will be on, is primarily based off of what rosters we have. So basically, and also graphics. If you don't have graphics on 2K, it's very likely that your game will be on NCAA Basketball 10, which kind of explains why we see a lot of 1 versus 16 or 2 versus 15 and sometimes 3 versus 14 games on NCAA Basketball 10, is because we don't have graphics for those teams for the 13, 14, and 15 seeds, 16, you get what I mean, in actual 2K. So we have to shift that over to NCAA Basketball, if that makes sense. It's a little bit complicated, but nonetheless, that about wraps up this video once again. Be sure to stay tuned for the games tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking around. I will see you all later.